The Chinese Communist Party has hyped up a laser air defense system called Tiandun Sky Shield, claiming it to be the drone terminator and a representation of future warfare. Saudi Arabia, a major customer in the Middle East, bought into this narrative and invested heavily to bring this divine sword back home, deploying it around its most important oil facilities. So, what was the result? Recently, shocking news came from Saudi Arabia. The message was simple: the highly anticipated Sky Shield system in a real combat scenario requires continuous laser targeting on a drone for 15 to 30 minutes to have a chance of destroying it. The news comes from the UK's defense blog, quoting a frontline officer from Saudi Arabia. As early as March 2022, Saudi Arabia received the first batch of the Chinese Silent Hunter laser air defense systems, combining them with Chinese-made 3D TWA radars and jamming units to create the so-called Sky Shield package. This radar plus jammer plus laser combination was repeatedly promoted by Chinese exhibitions and state media as a world-leading anti-drone solution. In 2024, at the Riyadh Defense Exhibition, manufacturers even claimed that Saudi Arabia had deployed 8 such systems capable of hard-killing disposable drones. The officer stated that most of the battlefield successes were not due to the laser, but to the nearby electronic jamming vehicle, which directly cut off the signals, causing the drones to fall on their own. The conclusion is clear: the exhibition myth falls apart on the battlefield. The Sky Shield system seems more like a tool to secure orders than a functional weapon for warfare. The timeline is clear. The first batch of Silent Hunter systems arrived and was deployed in March 2022. By the time of the 2024 Riyadh Defense Exhibition, manufacturers were claiming about 8 units deployed, only for the system to face criticism in real combat by 2025. This shows that the system has been in operation with frontline units for years, and the issue of its immature design has been evident for a long time. Number 1. Myth collides with reality. A cruel comparison table. The story from the opening scene becomes clearer in a simple comparison chart, with each contrast delivering a ruthless slap to the manufacturer's claims. At the exhibition, Chinese propaganda boasted 360 degrees coverage, quick deployment, multiple hits with one launch. On the battlefield, a frontline Saudi officer provided a stark reality: 15 to 30 minutes of continuous laser targeting to have any chance of downing a drone. At the exhibition, the claim was 360 degrees omnidirectional coverage, but in practice it requires a long and flat, perfect terrain. Any obstruction renders it ineffective. At the exhibition, the demo animation showed the laser cannon moving from truck mode to firing in one smooth motion. On the battlefield, the reality is that simply deployment, calibration, and cooling takes up enough tactical response time to render the system ineffective against sudden threats. The glaring disparity in this table is rooted in 3 unbreakable physical laws that all laser weapons must contend with. The first physical law, known in technical terms as atmospheric attenuation, comes into play. In the dusty desert air, the atmosphere is filled with tiny particles of sand. When the laser strikes, its energy is instantly scattered in all directions, losing much of its potency. What was originally 100% of the energy aimed at the drone is reduced by as much as 90% due to the sand hijacking it along the way. Worse yet, some of these sand particles don't just scatter the energy, they absorb it like a sponge. By the time the laser spear reaches the drone, it's no longer a spear, but at best just a toothpick. The second law is thermal blooming. The laser beam itself generates an enormous amount of heat. As it travels through the air, it heats up the air in front of it, creating an uneven thermal lens, known as thermal blooming. It's like a distorted funhouse mirror, causing the laser to deviate and scatter. The higher the power, the stronger the thermal blooming effects becomes, making the beam spread out and become fatter with each shot. What was meant to target an engine now spreads out like a pancake, completely losing its focus and failing to burn through the target. The third law is that laser technology requires cooling equipment. The process of generating high-energy lasers produces enormous amounts of heat. If the heat isn't dissipated, the system will melt itself before it can destroy the enemy. At temperatures as high as 50 degrees Celsius, the cooling system, which is a major power consumer, takes priority, drawing most of the available electricity. Reports from multiple sources indicate that over 90% of the power is used for system cooling, leaving less than 10% of usable power when it's time to fire. In the manufacturer's promotional videos, the entire process from radar detecting the threat to the laser destroying the target looks as fast as lightning. But when the system was deployed in the deserts of Saudi Arabia, every component faced the risk of rusting or jamming. The promised quick deployment turns out to be full of exaggeration. The reality on the battlefield is a lengthy startup process. How long is this process? While the specific data is classified based on similar high-energy laser systems like the US Army's Directed Energy Maneuver Short-Range Air Defense System and evaluations from defense analysts, the entire process from the vehicle stopping to being ready to fire takes anywhere from 30 minutes to over an hour. The heavy truck must find a perfectly flat surface, lower its hydraulic supports, and ensure the vehicle remains completely stationary. Then it must start an independent high-power generator, essentially powering up a small power station. The most critical and time-consuming step is that the core of the high-energy laser must reach an extremely low, stable operating temperature before firing, all while operating in 50 degrees Celsius desert conditions. Finally, the complex optical components and mirrors must undergo precise calibration to ensure the laser beam can be accurately focused. Before this hour-long startup ritual is completed, the enemy's drone has already carried out its attack and returned to base to celebrate. So, it's clear that the system from Beijing can only be used for static defense and is completely incapable of responding to any rapid, unforeseen threats. If dozens of cheap drones launched a simultaneous saturation attack from different directions, even if the Sky Shield had perfect aim, it would simply be overwhelmed and rendered helpless. Who is endorsing China's Sky Shield, the original sin of its assembly line supply chain? A deeper look into the composition of Sky Shield reveals that it did not originate from an unified, mature military-industrial system. Instead, it resembles a solution cobbled together by different units on an ad hoc basis. Its radar comes from the China Electronics Technology Group, with technological ties to its radar giants, the 38th Research Institute. The laser equipment is sourced from another defense giant, Poly Technologies, and its Silent Hunter system. The electric jamming system is an independent JN1101 jammer vehicle system. It may seem like a fully equipped luxury package, but in reality, this is a typical Chinese-style military trade dilemma. One company's eye direct another company's fist, while a third company adds interference, all packaged into a seemingly impressive product. Beyond the PPTs at the Zhuhai Air Show, the battlefield presents three critical questions. Is the data link consistent? In the rapidly changing air situation, can the target data detected by the radar be transmitted to the laser and command system with millisecond-level delay and zero packet loss? Does this assembled nervous system truly work in coordination? Who is responsible for anti-jamming? In a high electromagnetic interference environment, will the links between subsystems and the command software collapse? When the system fails, is the responsibility on company A, B, or C? This multi-head management is a disaster in wartime. Who pays for the tactical cost? The container-style laser modules require long deployment, calibration, and cooling times. In tactical design, who is responsible for mitigating this fatal time cost? Radar, laser, or the command unit's design? The answer is no one is responsible. If technical flaws and tactical bottlenecks are the acute illness of the Sky Shield system, then the collapse of its maintenance and support system is its chronic cancer. The moment the weapon is delivered is often not the conclusion of victory, but the beginning of a long nightmare. Multiple sources report that Saudi Arabia is facing a triple disaster in the logistics support of Sky Shield, consisting of personnel, spare parts, and upgrades. Laser weapons are not like tanks. They cannot be repaired by ordinary technicians. Their core consists of precision optics and high-power electronic systems, and any adjustments require nearly laboratory-level expertise in operations, such as micron-level mirror calibration and complex software fault diagnosis. In the contract, China only provided Saudi Arabia with basic operational training lasting from a few weeks to a few months. This means that the local personnel in Saudi Arabia have only learned to turn the system on and off, perform daily cleaning, and handle the simplest error codes. They can act as drivers, but they are far from being maintenance engineers. The contract did not establish a system for Chinese technical experts to be stationed in Saudi Arabia long term. Once a system encounters even a slightly more complex fault, such as unstable power output, optical calibration errors, or core module damage, Saudi Arabia's technical team is completely helpless. The only solution is to seek assistance from China. This is followed by a lengthy multinational process reporting the technical issue, assessing the fault, sending experts, processing visas, waiting for flights, customs clearance. This process routinely takes weeks, even months. In peacetime, this represents a high cost of both time and money. In wartime, an air defense system that takes weeks to repair is essentially non-existent. It becomes a massive, stable, and predictable vulnerability on the front lines, where the enemy can even use this repair cycle to plan their attack windows. Relying on international flight repairs for national defense security is akin to suicide. The sustained combat capability of a weapon system depends on the stability and autonomy of its spare parts supply chain. In this regard, the Sky Shield system has introduced deeper strategic concerns for Saudi Arabia. Many of the system's core high-value components, such as the laser generators for specific wavelengths, precision focus lenses, and specialized power control modules, belongs to products with extremely high technical barriers. They are not off-the-shelf products available on the international market. The global supply chain is almost entirely controlled by specific Chinese military-industrial enterprises. This means that the lifeline of Saudi Arabia's Sky Shield system, its spare parts supply, is entirely in China's hand. If a core component needs replacing, Saudi Arabia has no alternative options and can only purchase from China. This gives Beijing immense strategic leverage. Any geopolitical turmoil, such as a trade dispute, international sanctions, or even production shortages or export control imposed by China, could cause the Sky Shield fleet in Saudi Arabia to come to a halt due to the lack of crucial parts. The Saudi military has realized that they have not just bought a weapon system, but a long-term strategic dependence they cannot escape. Modern weapon systems face ever-evolving threats, making continuous upgrades and improvements crucial. In this regard, Saudi Arabia has found itself trapped in an upgrade trap. China promised during the sale that based on Saudi's feedback from real-world combat, the system would receive ongoing software and hardware upgrades. These promises were not included in the initial fixed-price contract. Saudi Arabia discovered every system flaw, every software defect, and every design weakness exposed by the desert environment. When they provided this valuable data to China, what they received in return were not free improvements, but new price quotes and a long waiting list for research and development. The Saudi military eventually came to the painful realization that what they had purchased with a hefty price tag was not a fully tested, stable, and mature weapon system, but rather a pay-to-test version that was rushed to the market. They were forced into the role of a guinea pig, bearing not only the huge risk of the system failing on the battlefield, but also the ongoing cost for the manufacturer's subsequent research, development, and bug fixes. This was no longer just a simple arms sale. It had turned into a form of crowd-fund R&D. Number 3, not the first time, evidence of the pattern, a replayed script. The predicament of the Sky Shield system in the desert is not a random technical failure, but the inevitable result of the Chinese military-industrial export model of heavy sales, light support. This failure list is far from short. The CH-4 armed drones purchased by Iraq and once touted as the poor man's predator was once highly praised. Due to severe shortages in spare parts and maintenance services, the entire CH-4 fleet in the Iraqi Air Force faced prolonged mass grounding, with only a small number of operational drones remaining. The VT-4 main battle tank, a star in the international sales, has repeatedly faced embarrassing moments of power failure and breakdowns during public dynamic displays, with the tank literally sitting down in front of an audience. While a single incident does not define the final verdict, its lack of reliability under extreme conditions has raised widespread doubts about its design. The JF-17 fighter jet has a complex overall evaluation. Some purchasing countries have long complained that the maintenance costs for its Russian-made engines and avionics systems exceeded expectations, and that the stability of its spare parts supply chain is far inferior to that of similar American and European products. The conclusion is not that Chinese-made products are inherently flawed, but that without global maintenance support, there is no global combat capability. When the logistic network, training system, and local maintenance are immature, delivery is just the beginning of a much longer nightmare. Do not place blind faith in a single miracle weapon. In the short term, a framework built on mature kinetics interceptors with electronic warfare for large-scale suppression should be used, while lasers should focus on close-range, single-target spot corrections rather than chasing unrealistic main force positions. Calculate the real cost, not the marketing price. The full life cycle cost, including power supply, cooling, labor, and consumables, must be factored into the unit kill cost. Contracts must bind spare parts supply guarantees with local repairability clauses, completely eliminating the logistical trap of returning to factory as a regular practice. It's about the system, not just stacking boxes. Start with sensor fusion, convergence of command and control systems, and target allocation before discussing with companies strike effectors to purchase. An assembled combo that has not been thoroughly validated as a complete system is nothing more than a disconnected exhibition puzzle on the battlefield. What China export is often advanced on paper, not on the battlefield. The real insurance lies not in the PPT hits rate, but in mature training systems, reliable logistics, and a sustainable maintenance network. Number 4. Saudi Arabia's strategic awakening. Cheap doesn't equal combat capability delivery. The Sky Shield incident has accelerated Saudi Arabia's already ongoing strategic shift. Several specific and public cases can attest to the fact that Riyadh is returning to a procurement route that prioritizes technological reliability and seeks deeper cooperation. This shift became especially clear between 2023 and 2025. After realizing the key performance shortcomings of systems like China's Sky Shield, Saudi Arabia's investment focus on the high-end air defense field has become very clear. At the Riyadh World Defense Exhibition in February 2024, the Saudi Ministry of Defense officially announced a contract worth approximately $3.2 billion with South Korea's LIG NEX-1 to procure 10 sets of Chang'e-2 KMSAM Block 2 air defense systems. This system, known as the Korean THAAD, is a fully tested advanced medium to long-range air defense system. Instead of opting for a potentially cheaper Chinese alternative, Saudi Arabia chose a system that aligns with Western standards and has gained a strong reputation in the international market, highlighting its extreme pursuit of technological reliability. Saudi Arabian Military Industries has also formed a joint venture with Lockheed Martin to locally produce the THAAD system's interceptor missile launchers and related equipment in Saudi Arabia. Also, during the 2024 World Defense Exhibition, Saudi Arabia signed an agreement with the UK's MBDA to jointly produce the CAMM series of short and medium-range air defense missiles. By choosing to collaborate with the UK, Saudi Arabia reaffirmed that its core suppliers for building a multi-layered air defense system remain well-established Western defense giants with both technological expertise and real combat experience. Driven by the Saudi Vision 2030, Riyadh's military procurement strategy has shifted from merely spending money on equipment to investing in a controllable defense ecosystem. They are willing to pay a higher premium for the reliability of technology, the stability of the supply chain, and the long-term security provided by localized production. What Riyadh needs are reliable allies who can perform consistently on the battlefield, not partners who only look good on PPT presentations.